Remus. I'm not upset, not angry. I am, so help me, curious. What was going on in that unfathomably fantastic brain of yours?
Well, you know how you said that tea leaves were leaves?
Yes, I recall that vividly. It was a mistake on my part, because it led you to assume that any leaves could be used to brew tea. The result was, let's just say it was one of the best cups of tea I've ever had.
Yeah, I did do that. But yeah, you know how also that you can use tea leaves to tell the future?
Yes, some people use tea leaves to predict the future, but that doesn't explain why there are caterpillars munching their way through my loose-leaf tea collection.
I wanted to make psychic butterflies.
Ah!
Janus, made you tea.
I'm very fond of that nickname.
It's Earl Grey.
It tastes indeed like Earl Grey.
Yep, and laced with iocane powder.
Iocane is a fictional poison.
I know, but we're fictional too.
Why?
Kind of wanted to see what would happen, really.
Well, regardless of if the poison is effective or not, what is going to happen is I am going to modify your rule set to reflect upon the fact that you are not allowed to make tea anymore.
Aww.
Now, I'm going to go find Logan and inquire if he has any hypothetical antidotes to make-believe poisons. Are you coming? Should be highly entertaining, watching Logan panic through conjecture, especially when I start not feeling so well.
Janus, how's my favourite sassy sneaky side?
Immediately very suspicious.
What? Can't I say hello to my dearest and most bestest friend?
No, you cannot, because when you refer to me as your dearest and most bestest friend, usually something terrible is about to happen, or something terrible has already happened and I'm about to learn the specifics of the situation.
You know me too well. Listen, I need an alibi. Can you just say that I've been with you all morning and nowhere near the light side?
The specifics.
I kind of reversed Roman's gravity, so I'm going to go hide. Bye.
Roman! What an unexpected surprise. No.
Huh?
No. Whatever it is you're thinking of, you are not allowed to do it. You know the rules. The thought of something makes you giggle for more than 10 seconds, you're absolutely not allowed to do it.
But it would have been real funny.
I don't make the rules.
Yes you do. They are literally called Janus's Rules for Remus. You add new ones all the time.
You are exceptionally good at finding creative loopholes and in fact brand new methods to test my sanity. So the answer's still no, you can't do it.
Great timing. These are just out the oven.
An ingenious way to display biscuits?
They are indeed biscuits.
Remus, are these poisonous?
No.
They are free from the addition of any non-edible foodstuffs.
Uh-huh.
There will be no adverse effects if I eat them.
None whatsoever.
They have an unusual flavour profile, like garlic.
No, I did add a bit of cinnamon, though.
Is every ingredient in date and suitable for consumption?
Yep.
Human consumption. I remember the dog food casserole.
I've obeyed every single one of your rules.
You look too pleased with yourself. I'm missing something.
Why don't you just try one?
Very well. A little bit dry, but tasty.
I should probably mention the secret ingredient.
I'm going to regret asking. What is the secret ingredient?
It's cricket flour. Flour made from ground up crickets.
You'd have thought I would have learnt by now. That we have normal flour available in the kitchen.
Normal's boring.
Be that as it may, and despite my initial reaction, they're not bad biscuits. Actually, one of your more successful baking attempts. There are a lot of them.
I thought we could share with the light sides.
You're never going to get one of the light sides to test something you have made.
That's why I thought maybe we could say you made them.
You mean lie? To the light sides? Remus, I am shocked and appalled at the very idea.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not. Okay, I'm in. Let's get a gift basket.
I'm going to put the cricket flour packet at the bottom with the biscuits on top, so that when they eat all the biscuits, they find out what the secret ingredient was.
That's genius. Here they come, here they come. Logan, Roman, what a pleasant surprise.
We're here about the biscuits.
You got our gift. Did you like them?
They were bug biscuits. Yeah, extra crunchy.
Yes. We hoped that it would help dispel this moniker of dark sides if we showed that we could do good.
How is tricking us into eating bugs good?
Why, cricket flour is nutritious, therefore very good for you. Also, it's very good for the environment.
That is complete and utter hogwash. Actually, Janus is right. Gasp!
A shocking revelation.
Cricket flour does contain 9 essential amino acids, and they are indeed a sustainable and environmentally friendly source of protein. So they are. Technically, though, it's not a flour, as it is not grain-based.
We did utilise a degree of deception in not revealing the ingredient list, but that would help you keep an open mind. Some people can be squeamish about eating bugs.
Wusses.
Given that a certain someone, who shall remain anonymous, Remus, could do with a refresher on some of his rules, but also so many of you have expressed interest in said rules, I thought it would be a completely terrible idea to seize this opportunity to review the rules. Hopefully it will serve as a reminder. There will be no particular order. It will purely be which ones I feel are pertinent and important at the time. I happily welcome questions and comments. I shall do my best to answer them. Or I'll get Remus to do it. We'll see. My least favourite rule? They're all boring, but I don't like the one about how I ought to conduct myself during debate in particular.
You mean the one that bans the use of morning stars during a verbal discussion?
That's the one. I'm great at debate. Might even say I'm a master at it. So violence to win an argument is fine.
It's not, and you know it. Besides, Logan is growing increasingly concerned over the number of times Roman has been bonked over the head.
Well, he should get better at ducking then, shouldn't he? A short but timely rule today. Remus is not permitted to try and induce spontaneous combustion in himself or others. An additional note. I don't care what the saying is. Liar, liar, pants on fire wasn't even funny the first 14 times. My least favourite rule that I've had to put in place? That Remus is no longer allowed to make tea for me. This follows after a series of inventive interpretations of the instructions I gave to make tea. Tea leaves must be used, for example. Lemon or milk could be added. Not both together, they curdle. The milk should be from a traditionally domesticated animal, such as a cow, because platypus milk is vile. Water should be used to brew the tea. Still, Remus managed to make a briny cup of tea using salt water, whilst obeying every single one of the rules, and I was starting to get nervous every time I heard the kettle boil, so I had to buy him outright. This is not to say that Remus cannot make himself a cup of tea however he likes, or indeed make tea for any passing light sides that happen to be visiting. New rules are infrequently added. However, there is the need for constant updates and amendments to existing rules, as Remus is extremely good at finding technicalities and loopholes to circumnavigate the intent of the rule whilst technically obeying the letter. It's quite a talent. It has the advantage that life on the dark side is very rarely dull. But Remus doesn't need supervision, let alone constant supervision, and let alone by me. When he is engaged in a creative endeavour or project, he can be away for days. I can hardly see him. I don't miss him at all during those times. The most recent rule that I had to introduce was one I completely foresaw the need for. It reads as follows. No bear traps.
I still think you're overlooking the fact that we might need a bear trap one day.
I know. You said this many times and then proceeded to conjure a trio of very large bears.
One of them had toothache.
They were angry bears. Yet, even with the sudden influx of incredibly irate animals stomping through the dark side, I still maintain that the bear traps were more hazard than help.
You're just saying that because you tripped up while running away from one of the bears and nearly fell into a bear trap and it nearly snapped off your head.
No bear traps. The most important rule is the 10-second giggling rule, whereby if the thought of something makes Remus giggle for more than 10 seconds, he is absolutely forbidden from doing it. Due to Remus's gleeful and exuberant nature, this acts as an early warning system to a large number of disruptions without being too specific. However, we have had to modify the rule somewhat. We had to add the clause that laughter, sniggering, chuckling are all considered forms of giggling, as is tittering, chortling, guffawing. At this point, I had to take the thesaurus off of Remus. We had to add an extra rule as well. Any form of maniacal laughter cuts the time down from 10 seconds to 5. The rule that we will be reviewing today concerns wake-up calls. The initial rule reads, wake-up calls should occur in the morning. There needed to be an amendment added the next day. Wake-up calls should be in the morning and occur no earlier than 8 a.m. A further clarification was needed the next again day. Wake-up calls should occur in the morning at no earlier than 8 a.m. local time. There are a couple more stipulations. Wake-up calls should not exceed 90 decibels. Wake-up calls should not include any form of wildlife. Wake-up calls should not require a shower immediately afterwards. Which rule do I break the most? No. I don't break the rules. I just wiggle my way through the loopholes and ambiguities that Janus hasn't thought about yet. Keeps him on his toes. Wait, snakes don't have toes. Does Janus have toes? I wonder how much custard I would need to put in his shoes to find out. Here's the thing, he doesn't break the rules. He might find a way to push the definition of a rule or find new meaning from the words, but for the most part, he doesn't break them. He is very fond of finding creative and inventive interpretations that work round the rule, but that's not the same as breaking them either. If he ever did break the rule, I would ask that he tidy up or deliver apology as merited. Ask, you understand, not demand. I don't have any overarching authority. Yet. A short reenactment of the events of this morning. The scene begins. Janus has just stepped into his shoes and found them to be surprisingly filled to the brim with custard. Ah! Remus! You scoundrel! What have you done to my shoes? End scene. Janus hisses when he gets real mad. In other news, I'm not allowed to use custard for anything ever again. Totally worth it, though. Careful, we don't want to give Remus ideas. The weirdest thing, though, is about maths. Remus is very good at maths. I'm not lying. There was a quiz. I think Logan had misinterpreted the idea of a pub quiz and supplied a sheet of basic maths problems. Remus rattled through them all and got them all correct, but he has a creative, out-the-box kind of style of thinking, which means that he finds the correct solution through peculiar means. He will use logarithmic tables to solve multiplication, or a series of small boxes to explain his division. Logan was impressed and baffled, and he got quite obsessed over this bit of paper the pub quiz ground to a halt. Remus had to eat the paper for us to continue. So the rule followed. When doing maths, please do not show you're working. I don't know. I'm very unlikely to mess with Janus's bathtub ever again. See, what I did was I put leeches in the bathtub water and then covered it up with bubble bath. And then Janus went to take a bath. And you could hear the screams across the mindscape. It was glorious. So there was a rule added. Do not put leeches in the bathtub. So I didn't. Put them in the water tank, so that when Janus turned the tap, it was him that put the leeches in the bathtub. He was as mad as a cut snake. Fitting, really. Anyway, I reached my peak there, so I think I can leave the bathtub alone for now, but don't worry. I've got lots more good ideas. An interesting question. Firstly, I do not make Remus do anything to try and do so. We yield extremely positive results. But secondly, in the dark we have an understanding. We each accept that we have a different function, and there is a degree of tolerance to how we each choose to express ourselves. For example, I am deceit. And Remus is... Remus. That being said, Remus is entirely defenceless, and completely incapable should any of the other sides take it in their head to take objection to how he behaves or acts. I would absolutely not stand by Remus's side should a conflict occur. Oh, I like this question because there's so many possibilities. I could make every Tuesday compulsory no-clothes day, or I could make swearing obligatory and see how long it took Patton to break down into tears. I could ban every single Disney movie that wasn't Old Yeller. But if I had to make a rule for myself, if it would be funny, all the rules are disregarded. I do get to make some rules, though. Janus doesn't like to mention it because he thinks he's above all reproach, but he's got his own rules. Gets huffy if you talk about them, though. Oops.
Read it.
Dangerous experiments are banned from the kitchen, and they should be labelled. And they should be clearly and accurately labelled.
And?
Dangerous experiments must be contained within a separate room with the clear and accurate label.
Continue reading the rule.
Dangerous experiments should be contained within a separate room that is not Janus's room, and they must be labelled as hazardous. And I did all that.
Indeed, it had some very clear warnings on the door. However, what else did you add to the door?
I added a sign that said it was a surprise for Roman and that he should definitely not stick his head in to see what it was.
And then what happened?
Roman stuck his head in to see what it was.
Well, I don't think he'll be doing that again in a hurry.
Not till his eyebrows grow back, at least.
I'm bored.
I'm not panicking in the slightest, but on a scale of 1 to critical, where would you rate your boredom level?
I don't know, maybe a 7?
7. Have you talked to your brother lately?
Roman's still flustered because I swapped his hair gel for hagfish mucus and he didn't notice for 2 days.
Logan, then. I seem to recall you had an interesting project where you were trying to get him to swear in different languages.
Oh, it's too difficult to get to swear. He doesn't care about anything except his stupid jam. And there's a rule about that.
Yes, we had to put a rule in place after last month's escapades. Not only were they messy, they pushed Logan straight past annoyed to so furious I thought he was going to pass out. The contents of Logan's jam is completely off limits.
Wait. That means I can make labels, right? I can make labels that say Jingle Bells.
This is one of Remus's very funny jokes. Ignore him. He's lying. You told everybody my rules. Janus's rule is that if he's planning some grand revenge scheme, he has to have 2 cups of tea, a snack, and a 20-minute lie down before he's allowed to enact anything. This usually gives him time to simmer down and become less murderous, so the rest of us can get on with our day without having to worry about some vindictive vendetta. I suspect this rule's going to come into play today. I'm going to go put the kettle on. The worst result of Remus being bored. It was years ago. Remus had gotten bored, but he'd sequestered himself away, so none of us really realised until it was several days later. When we found him, he was quiet, withdrawn, sullen. The spark had gone from his eyes. Creativity does not thrive when bored. It took a time for him to regain himself and come back to his usual energetic and exuberant nature. I do not blame myself at all for what happened, nor do I feel any guilt. It will happen again. Just a quickie today. One of Janus's rules is that he has to give you a 5-second warning or a 10-second head start before taking grievous offence. This is because he lies all the time, and he'll tell you he's fine, and you don't know if that's the case, or if he's actually quietly getting more and more murderous. And then bam, snake to the face. Tempting as it may be from time to time, I would never do such a thing. It would do Thomas absolutely no good to remove half of his creativity. Besides, threats of violence against his person half the time only seem to encourage Remus. Nah, the others are all too goody two-shoes to be much help. Know-it-all Logan has been my unwitting accomplice from time to time, though. He loves to impart knowledge, and he never even asks why I want to know what the most poisonous thing in the ocean is, or how many decibels it'll take to make somebody's ears bleed. The magic words are out of academic interest, and then you can ask whatever you like. He's even given me some ideas about how I might be able to get round the multitude of rules about what I cannot have as a pet. Sure, I like all the sides. Doesn't matter if they don't like me. Me and Snakeface obviously get on, and we haven't done each other in yet, which I'm pretty sure is a sign of true friendship. Know-it-all Logan, well, he's the guy that you want to go and talk to if you want to find out what's best for blowing up an orphanage. C4 or TNT. Papa Patton fosters easily, especially if you use expletives. But he's yet to have an aneurysm, or run away screaming, so I kind of admire his tenacity. Gloomy Guts Virgil, well, we used to make the most amazing nightmares together. They were really creepy. They were awesome. And then, of course, there's my brother. We don't always see eye to eye, though. But he has got a good singing voice, and I will admit that some of the nicknames he comes up with the others are pretty funny. Plus, that all-white ensemble of his, fantastic for target practice. Oh, that reminds me, I was working on some mustard paintballs. Bye! Why, I would enjoy my cup of tea in peace and quiet. In all honesty, though, Remus having a couple of quiet days is not a cause for concern. Should it persist past a day or two, I might ask how he's feeling. On the 4th day, I might start to enact some of the protocols that we have in place for such event. These include going over to see what the light sides are up to, which Remus always finds highly entertaining, putting in place a new rule, researching something suitably horrific, or, in extreme cases, allowing Remus to test out a new recipe in the kitchen.
Happy holidays!
I'm nervous.
I got you a gift.
Will it explode?
Not this year. Read it, read it, read it.
I, Remus Sanders, hereby vow not to meddle, tinker, fiddle, interfere, or otherwise. The letters FU have been scored out and replaced with the word mess, with this mug and its contents. Ever. Or until the entropic destruction of the universe, whichever comes first. And it's signed RS, presumably in blood. It says cyanide on it.
That's the point. Misinformation on your mug. Chicanery on your cup. No one else is going to want to drink from it.
It is a thoughtless gift. Terrible.
Give it back then.
It's mine.
Here, do not be careful.
It's a crown. Made out of shards of glass. It looks jagged and sharp, like you might cut yourself to ribbons even trying to wear it.
Entirely selfish. I thought that if you had your own piece of headwear, you might leave my hat alone.
I love this.
Wait, no hugs! No hugs!
Yes. Lots and lots and lots and lots. Like, there is a growing list of things that I'm not allowed to put in a blender. Like, a fork. Forks plural. My hand. Roman stuff. And so on and so on and so on. You get the idea. Most recently, though, it's all about Logan's jam. Not only am I not allowed to dip anything in the jam anymore, but I'm not allowed to make labels either. This is because, over breakfast, Logan saw the label and kind of gagged a bit, and then Patton saw the label and he looked up dingleberries before anybody could stop him, and then the pair of them went green as the warts on a toad's rear end. It was brilliant. Well, that very much depends on your definition of going wrong, doesn't it? Personally, if I've gone over to the light side, I expect something to be on fire or ruined or damaged beyond all repair or somebody to be screeching my name or general disruption and chaos. Otherwise, what's the point? Janus will often be tagging along. He claims it's to keep an eye on me, but he will also lend a hand or three if asked. If things go south, however, and you need to make a quick getaway, you'll be eating his dust. He's already liked it. He's got a surprisingly fast turn of speed for a snake. My name does come up sometimes within these rules, usually to safeguard myself or my personal belongings, but also Roman. Roman also needs to be mentioned from time to time, as he often finds himself the target of Remus's inventiveness. Part of me suspects it's because he has such a good reaction. He will rant and rave and scream and screech and behave in a very indignant and dramatic fashion. I happen to think that this inspires further interactions of a similar vein. I totally plan to tell Roman of this. Oh, there are pages of rules about pets. Starts off fairly predictably. No apex predators, nothing deadly or toxic, nothing gigantic and carnivorous. What Janus didn't realise was that hippopotamuses are a strict herbivore, yet can cause significant damage and turmoil, even if they're not rabid. I'm not allowed to make hippopotamuses rabid anymore either. Then there was a couple of rules about skunks and other very pungent animals. Animals that spit. Any animal that you needed protective gear to be around. And then woodworm, termites, lice. Then Janus said if it was a pet, it would need to be leashed or caged when not actively supervised. He then had to add a rule that the leash or cage would have to contain the pet in question. So, with all the cool animals banned, I had to get a little bit creative. I summoned chupacabras and basilisks, and it was amazing. Janus was kept very busy filling out his little rulebook, and I had a great time. Until the gremlins. I thought they were a lot of fun, but Janus didn't like being nearly murdered by something under a foot tall. He banned all fictional creatures at that point. But you know what's not fictional? Dinosaurs! I made a herd of tiny little stegosauruses and set them loose. I give them the voices of peacocks. Turns out Janus is not a fan of peacocks. They're very noisy. That was the point that Janus put his foot down and banned all animals. I'm also not allowed a pet rock. I tried to play fetch with one and nearly concussed Patton. Remus is insipid and dull, dreary, mediocre even. He is lackluster, tedious, insincere, and absolutely not eavesdropping right now.
Aw, Snake Boy, who knew you were such a sentimental sap?
Shut up! These rules are only for Remus. Remus's rules. No other side is beholden to the book. Though, I hardly think I would have to remind Logan or Patton that live wires should not be in the kitchen and that food prepared should be non-toxic as a bare minimum. I bet you think I'm going to say something obvious like Caligula or Genghis Khan, but no. Shakespeare is my favourite. Guy was a genius. He made up words all over the place, plus he's got some really smutty lines in his plays. If Shakespeare could slip in a dick joke or make reference to lady bits, you bet your kneecaps he would. What a guy. Plus, have you read Titus Andronicus? It's my favourite. It's so twisted. It's got ritual sacrifice and a bleeding stump where once a tongue was that bleeds about all over the stage. And it's got corpses used as pillows and a human pie. That's not even the half of it. I am not allowed to reenact any more scenes from Titus Andronicus, however. One of the rules. Remus is not allowed to make soup for Patton. Let me explain. There is a rapidly expanding list of things that Remus is not allowed to put in any kitchen appliance, but specifically the blender. Added to this list recently was vegetables with facial features. This is because Remus was making vegetable soup. He had carrots, potatoes, onions, standard fare. But he carved little eyes in, and little screaming mouths. He added them to the blender, called Patton through, and pushed puree. He added sound effects, little cries for help and screams. Patton became very distraught, and swore off eating soup ever again, much to Logan's dismay. Personally, I rather like Remus's vegetable soup, even if he does cackle while eating it. Patton stares, but doesn't say anything unkind. He does make snake puns about me when I'm not in the room, and he thinks I do not know. Logan regards me with a somewhat concerning scientific curiosity, and Roman has expressed his distaste for my facial features loudly and repeatedly. Isn't it nice that he is so honest? He also uses nicknames, which he finds very entertaining, as does Remus. Importantly though, Remus will retract names that I do not enjoy, if asked. It is part of the agreement that we have. He will not use nicknames that I find intolerable, and I will not make my displeasure known with the blunt end of my staff. Compromise. He does have a worrying interest in what else about me may be snake-like. I think that he and Logan are exchanging theories. Hey, Jared doesn't blink. You know, 'cause snakes don't have eyelids. You look like heated over diarrhea.
I had a very restful night's sleep.
I could sing you the Feel Better song.
Please do. Not! Please do not.
It works. Makes people feel better. That's why it's called the Feel Better song.
The Feel Better song is an atonal nightmare, with apparently infinite verses, each word's in the last, and it goes on and on until your poor victim proclaims that they feel better, and only then will you stop.
See? Highly effective. It makes people feel better, especially when I stop. Whichever one is newest, usually. It doesn't have any amendments yet, but over time Janus will take up his little book and he'll add clauses and stipulations and additions, and the potential for loopholes gets smaller and smaller and smaller. This is not a bad thing, though. Have you ever seen an octopus squeeze itself through the tiniest of little gaps? It's gross and amazing. Kinda like me. Amazing and gross. No, and there are certainly no torn up pages in this rulebook whatsoever. Absolutely none about what Remus can and cannot eat. If such a rule had been put in place, why, Remus might have been inclined to rather extreme measures in order to convince us that shampoo, whilst not nutritious and very certainly not tasty, was in fact edible. I can only imagine how many times Remus would have had to sneak shampoo into communal meals and snacks in order to have the rule overturned and allow him just to eat as much shampoo as he wished. There was a time that I used to leave the book unattended and unguarded in my room, until the day I returned to find about 30 post-it notes scattered throughout, replacing every instance of the word do not with definitely do, every instance of not allowed to completely allowed, and every single instance of the word forbidden with encouraged. It was quite the eventful afternoon. Nowadays, I keep the book securely on my person. Normally, I'd say Janus, 'cause he's around most often and it's most convenient. But he says that pranks don't normally involve nail guns or stomach pumps or acid.
A prank is a harmless gag, like a whoopee cushion or a bucket of water over a door.
Not a bucket of rocks.
Not a bucket of rocks.
Then, I don't think I pull pranks.
I would be inclined to agree.
No more birds. Larger creatures such as emus, cassowaries, even the extinct terror bird had been banned already because of their size and aggressive temperaments. But then Remus asked, could he make some birds about yay big? I naively assumed that he intended to make some birds of the Paradei family, more commonly known as tits. These include species such as coal-tit, blue-tit, great-tit. Remus derives great amusement from these names, and more importantly, the birds themselves are harmless. I said yes. What we got were vampire finches. I didn't know that such a creature existed, but now I have some first-hand experience of being chased through the mindscape by a flock of bloodthirsty budgies. Birdsong still makes me shudder. Excuse me? None of the rules are stupid. They all serve valuable purpose. But I suppose the most stupid thing that Remus has ever done to have a rule added was to get himself banned from playing the board game Snakes and Ladders. This is because of the quite frankly excessive number of times he made going down on a snake jokes and puns and innuendos. Even when warned, he persisted. I don't think he could help himself. He was probably encouraged by the fact that Roman and Virgil kept sniggering. As to the number of rules, well, even if I wanted to count up the number of rules and factor in the amendments and additions, any number I gave you would be inaccurate within a matter of days, perhaps even hours. And I have enough problems with people assuming that everything I say is untrue without adding evidence. I don't like it. It's like a vacuum sucks all the energy out of me. Or my bones feel lead poisoning heavy. And my brain feels like it's been replaced with mouldy mashed potatoes. It's not much fun at all. Plus, it makes Janus really upset. He gets very panicky and twitchy, and he keeps checking in on me, even more than when I'm doing science experiments. That reminds me, I was going to go and talk to Logan about doing some science today. He's got the best lab kit, plus access to all the really explosive and hazardous chemicals. Remus's antics have a certain puerile charm, and whilst I don't laugh, I often find myself admiring the ingenuity and inventiveness of his endeavours, especially when it's not directed at me. Though I take no pleasure whatsoever to see the light side scramble to deal with Remus in full-on creative mode, it does fall upon me to rein Remus in from time to time. I don't care what happens to Logan's jam or Roman's sword or Patton's mementos, but I will step in when Remus risks incurring real ire from the others. I make the rules to ensure that we can continue to function as a group, each in our own way. There is one I'm saving for a special occasion. When passing an item to another side, I am not allowed to throw it just as hard as I can anymore. But there's nothing to say I can't jam it into a cannon and fire it across the room. I'm still working on the gunpowder ratio though, so the item doesn't get obliterated by the blast. There's a rule or eight about shrapnel. Remus, do you want to incite Thomas to murder?
Only if I get to make a total gore fest out of it.
Of course, the repercussions would be that Thomas would go to jail.
Jail sounds super dull. Change my mind.
As you can see, there absolutely needs to be a rule in place to prevent such occurrence. Whichever one would be most entertaining at the time, of course. I'm currently having a great deal of fun with Janus's clothing rules. The rule reads, 1 item of clothing, at least, should be worn when in the common areas. But a feather boa won't cut it. Then Janus specified that the lower half of my body ought to be covered with the clothing. He didn't like the neon green fishnet stockings at all. He said that the clothing should cover the genitals. A single sock is not sufficient, apparently. Janus is boring like that. So I used his hat. It was great because he couldn't take it off me because that would make me break the rule. I should try and get hold of one of his gloves next. Don't think he'll want it back afterwards, though. And now, one of Janus's rules. Janus is not allowed to play poker. You might think this is because he's got an unfair advantage when it comes to a game of deception and bluffing, but it's not. He's a terrible loser. Sulks for hours when he doesn't win, and that's if he doesn't storm off in a monumental hissy fit. See, I found a way to overcome Janus's skills in deception.
You cheated.
There's nothing in the poker rules that say I have to look at the cards. I played blinded. Bet however I felt like at the time. No tells, no patterns. Janus couldn't do a thing about it. With a little bit of statistics and a little bit of probability and a little bit of luck, I claimed the whole pot. We played for jelly beans that night, so I made myself a victory smoothie in the blender. It tasted like diabetes and tooth decay.
While I admire your thematic encore, and the fact that you even included a form of wordplay that Patton would have normally appreciated, I do not think he's going to thank you for this.
Logan's been on his case for weeks about not eating soup. And I'm not allowed to make him soup anymore, one of the rules. So I just suggested a place that he could visit that specialises in soup and soup-like beverages.
A brothel is not named because it serves broth.
I know that, and you know that, and now Patton knows that.
Logan is going to kill you. Or worse, he's going to treat you to a 1-hour lecture on appropriate word usage and or the nutritional value of soup.
He's going to have to catch me first. He does, all the time. But this is double speech deceit we're talking about, and sometimes his words get all muddled up in lies. Happily, I've got quite good at parsing through Parseltongue. For example, when he says, "I cannot imagine what you've done now," what he actually means is, "You continually astonish me with your inventiveness, Remus." And when he says, "That is an unusual flavour combination," what he wants to say is, "You are a culinary genius, but I don't want any." And so, when he has to go and find Logan to check to whether I've broken one of the rules or not, or just found a new technicality, what he actually is saying is, "Gosh, Remus, you've outsmarted me again." He might use words like infuriating or exasperating, but he means smart. Sometimes. Are you sure? Very well. Please bear in mind that this is a tuneful piece of music delivered at reasonable volume with appropriate regard for musical structure and rhythm and key. You have not been warned.
Feel better, oh please feel better, oh I hope you feel so much better, this is the feel better song, oh feel better.
Enough. I think they get the point. It is of course my most favourite of musical renditions.
What a coincidence, mine too.
Not exactly. I'm not allowed to put bugs in Janus's hat, or itching powder, or noodles, or concentrated sulfuric acid. I'm also not allowed to pull it down over his eyes so he can't see. I'm not allowed to use it as a frisbee or a bucket. And I'm absolutely not allowed to secretly exchange it for a nearly identical hat that was 2 sizes too small. Janus does not like to be touched, or licked, or bit. Tasering's right out. But the thing that makes him most mad is when he's not listened to, even when he's trying to be truthful. I give him grief because sorting through all of his lies is like a monkey searching for ticks. But he's got this tone he uses when he's forcing himself to be honest. It's raw, like an open wound oozing pus. And that's when you can trust him. Like, really, really trust him. More than just he's got good intentions or he's looking out for Thomas. He's not always heeded, even when he's forcing himself to be truthful. And that makes him really angry. So I do not ignore him. I always listen to what he has to say. Even if it's a long discussion about the differences between a taser and a cattle prod. Horticulture. One of the many seemingly innocent pastimes that Remus has managed to create absolute chaos with. The Venus flytrap itself was not the issue, but the flies needed to feed it, and the subsequent maggots were just delightful. Then Remus learnt that a great many plants were poisonous, and at the same time we started to see garnishes added to group meals. I had to ban all poisonous and toxic plants at that point. and then all fictional plants, after having to fight my way to my heat lamp past a bunch of triffids. The last straw, however, was the Titan arum, better known as the corpse plant for its unique aroma. All plants were banned at that point. A last note, I don't care what Logan says, mushrooms should be considered plants, especially as so many of them are poisonous and hallucinogenic. Anyway, one very memorable mushroom risotto later, and all fungi are also banned. Even though there are many scientific experiments that have the potential for hazard or harm, and some that have been discontinued due to unethical methodology, to say the least, and that Remus regards this list of forbidden scientific practices as a to-do list, I'm not going to ban him from doing science or experiments. It's one of the few areas of common interest that he and Logan can agree upon. Besides, Logan will often invite Remus over to the light side, and frankly, if there's going to be any explosive or toxic or loud or messy experiments, I'd much rather it was far away from me.
Janus, Remus. Janus, you look somewhat perturbed. Look at him. Remus appears to be sketching. Exactly. He's been sitting there quietly all morning. This seems to me to be the opposite of an issue. I don't trust that he's not up to something. He's not even giggling.
Hello, my dearest friends! And Janus. What are we up to on this fine day?
Apparently we are watching Remus sketch. He's just been sitting there, quietly, for hours.
Oh, budge up, Janus. I shall help you to keep an eye on this mischievous miscreant.
Is that really necessary? Yes.
Yes. Hey, kiddo. Logan asked me to see if Roman was still down here with you.
He's over there. He fell asleep about half an hour ago. Same as Snakeface.
They've been here all day?
Mm-hmm. They took turns getting dinner. Roman brought me a sandwich. It was cheese, but not the mouldy kind, so it was boring.
Logan said that Roman and Janus were both convinced you were up to something.
Well, yeah, they know me too well. I am.
What?
They've not been getting on very well, Janus and my brother, so I thought if I sat and they had a chance to thwart me, they would be able to spend time without getting on each other's nerves.
That's so kind and considerate.
I know. Now hand me that permanent marker. I want to give Janus angry eyebrows. Remus! 10, 9.
You know I'd
8,
love to hang around
7,
and admire my handiwork, but I gotta
5,
run. Quite
4,
literally.
3, 2, 1. I was sure there was a rule about drawing on people's faces. Ah, here it is. Remus is not allowed to draw mustaches on anybody's face, especially Roman. Remus is not allowed to draw expletives on anybody's face. Remus is not allowed to draw crude drawings of genitalia on anybody's face. Remus is not allowed to draw anatomically correct drawings of genitalia on anybody's face. I'm going to add eyebrows. Least fun rule. I'm struggling to think of a single rule that hasn't been highly entertaining to mess with. Yeah, some of the rules are not as much fun. For example, Janus banning me from all animals as pets forever and ever and ever. But the process of getting there was oodles of fun. And then there's the rules I haven't figured out yet. Ooh, they're like a wobbly tooth in the gums, just begging to be poked and prodded and jiggled and shaken loose. That would be the day that Remus decided he wanted to cook. We cleared the premises round the kitchen as a precautionary measure, but I stayed behind to supervise. As such, I was treated to an 18-course meal, each dish of which added a new stipulation on what I considered suitable food. It started with a dish that was inedible. Literally, it was a bowling ball with a sprig of parsley on top. Remus claimed he wanted to see how far my jaw could unhinge. Then we had the glass and gasoline gatto, laxative omelette, pasta salad with raw pasta, a live pig with the word bacon written on it, which thankfully ran away, a durian smoothie, and the sandwich. I'm forever grateful that Remus finds the word arsenic so very entertaining, or he might not have given away that it was poisonous. By late afternoon we had established, through several pages of rules, that food served should be non-toxic as a bare minimum. I had yet to have a bite to eat on account of so many things being poisonous, venomous, hazardous, and just in general not wise to consume. So when Remus brought through a plate of charred salmon with green beans, baby potatoes, and wild garlic butter that looked quite appetizing, my hopes were lifted, until I realised that the whole thing had been made out of Play-Doh, non-toxic but not exactly edible. I strongly suggested at this point that Remus ought to consider using foodstuffs when making food. He brought through rancid ratatouille, to which point I added a rule that all ingredients used in cooking should be in date. The next dish was a casserole, and I tried some and found it actually quite palatable. I was enjoying myself until Remus announced that it had been made with just the freshest dog food. By the end of the day, we had established that not only was I getting increasingly hungry, but that when people eat a meal they would prefer to do so without gagging, regretting it the next day, or perishing. So Remus brought out the last meal. It was haggis, neeps and tatties. Neeps are turnip and tatties are potatoes, and it was served with a whiskey cream sauce that did not skip on the cream nor the whiskey. I was so hungry that I started to eat. I did not even stop when Remus explained what haggis was, or went into gleeful detail on the process of how it is made. I was too hungry for that point. I think it rather annoyed him that I asked for seconds. It was rather tasty. The danger noodle is having a bit of a strop, so I thought I'd help him out, and I'll do the rule today. When cooking, chili is to be considered a spice and not an endurance test or a hazing ritual. There's been other things other than chili added. Pepper, cloves, wasabi, mace and mustard, and nutmeg. Did you know that enough nutmeg is hallucinogenic? Janus didn't. He does now, though. He went loopy, and on a complete power trip, he proclaimed himself king of the dinosaurs, and then he spent 2 hours crying over his fallen subjects. He's not talking to me at the moment. Does the book have power? No, it's just a book. Words and paper and ink and a leather binding. It has no power over me, and I'm not compelled to follow the rules. I used to think that the leather binding was just some imprinted snake design, but now that I look at it, it's reminding me a heck of a lot of the nightmare crocodiles I summoned years and years and years ago. They really liked Janus's heat lamp. Janus did not like that they really liked Janus's heat lamp. We had crocodile stew for dinner that week. I do care that you've been practicing all night. I'm still mad at you. Logan, let's do some science.
I'm afraid I must decline. I have work to
You
do.
said that last time.
Last time was 2 hours ago.
Exactly. You need to take a break, or you might have a mental break. Although it could be quite funny to see you try to pull off a murderous rampage around the mindscape.
Perhaps a short break would be beneficial. What kind of science had you in mind?
Anything you like. We could extract the potassium from a bunch of bananas and then put it in a bucket of water and explode it. Or we could see what level of voltage it takes to make all the lab equipment break. We could make a black hole and feed it spaghetti.
I would prefer nothing too dangerous.
I guess. I mean, safety is important. Say, Logan, I don't really know what constitutes a safe experiment or not. Out of academic interest, what experiments are the most dangerous? So I know to avoid them.
There are hundreds,
You
thousands.
could make a list. Or a spreadsheet.
I do appreciate a well set out spreadsheet.
I do not have the feeling that something terrible is happening. Not too many as yet, but me and Logan do have some amazing plans for some science that we could do, and it'll be explosive and messy and toxic and... Let's not tell Janus, huh? Or Logan for that matter. Remus, there are teeth marks in the rulebook.
Yes.
Are they your teeth marks?
Yes.
No, I'm not going to ask this time.
People on the internet suggested I eat the book, so I took a bite.
Why would you listen to some random person on the internet?
Thought it'd be funny.
We have already been through this. It would be funny is not adequate reason for doing anything. It's only slightly more acceptable than it would annoy the heck out of Roman. A tactical choice. Virgil and I don't always see eye to eye, and in the interest of potentially reaching a less antagonistic dynamic in the future, I've elected to give him space and privacy. As such, I will not talk about him, nor his time with the dark sides. Besides, this series is called Remus's Rules, and they are about Remus and his rules. That reminds me, I should add a rule about not playing The Floor is Lava, on account that Remus used real lava, and then sewage, and then Lego. In fact, I might just ban the game altogether, given that he doesn't always check the people in the room want to participate. Give it to me.
No, it's mine.
Ah, Logan, terrible timing. Help me convince this idiot that pouring absinthe on his cornflakes will not make him a better artist.
Absinthe is an alcoholic beverage that contains wormwood. It is thought to cause delirium and hallucinations if drank in excessive quantities.
Van Gogh drank it by the bucketful.
True, and he is considered one of the greatest artists of all time. However, Vincent van Gogh is said to have been addicted to it, and it might have even contributed to his decision to chop off his own ear and mail it to a local prostitute.
Why would you tell him that?
I thought that the risk of mutilation would be a deterrent.
Have you met Remus? Right, you stop helping and you. No absinthe for breakfast.
Aww.
And no chopping off your ear either. I absolutely accept hugs. So does Janus, but he won't ever say so. He's got this aloof image he's trying to maintain. Silly snake. It's tricky to know when he wants a hug because he'll never ask or offer. And even I won't hug somebody who doesn't want it. But I figured out a way around it. What you do is you hold out your hands like this, and then you wait to see if he's going to reach for the cane or not. If you don't back away when he's reaching for the cane, you are going to get bunked over the head. And he's not going to apologise for it. Ever. But if he walks towards you, then you get treated to one of Janus's snaky hugs. He gives amazing hugs. He's got these extra arms, and although two of them are usually keeping track of where my hands are, the other one's wrapped around you like a big old boa constrictor. I do not hug. Remus does, though. He gives enthusiastic hugs, and it's not unlike trying to hold on to a sack of over-caffeinated squirrels. And he makes his bones creak and pop alarmingly on purpose. He also benefits from a reminder to keep his hands to himself, not least because he picks pockets, or his newest trick, reverse pickpocketing, where he'll gift you something completely unwanted in your clothes. A handful of hatching frog spawn is not the worst thing I've retrieved from my pockets after a hug from Remus. If he starts to giggle, he's probably thought of something delightful to deposit, and I would end the hug there. So what if we put magnets in the bird food and...
Where is he, the vile little vandal?
Psst, Logan, I think he's talking to you.
Roman, what seems to be the matter? I just finished my laundry and all of my clothes have been stained black. It's exactly the kind of thing that Remus would do.
Yeah, but I didn't.
At exactly what time did you commence starting your laundry cycle? An hour ago. Why? Remus has been with me all morning, well over an hour. We've been discussing magnets and electromagnetic properties.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out how many magnets it would take to scramble a pigeon's brain.
Theorising on how to make pigeons veer from their thought patterns has been discussed. However, Remus could not have meddled with your laundry.
So, spin on it.
That means... Virgil! You can drop the disguise now, Deceit.
How could you tell it was me?
I was not completely sure until you confirmed my suspicions by revealing yourself. But you also had not mentioned anything to do with butts for the last 45 minutes.
Then why did you not inform Roman?
Usually you actively discourage Remus's interactions with his brother that might result in weaponry being involved. I would suggest then that Remus is bored, and this is your solution to that boredom. Furthermore, by masquerading as Remus, you have managed to manufacture a situation where Remus is able to cause mischief without damaging his relationship with his brother.
Or his clothes. I convinced Remus to use disappearing ink rather than squid ink.
I understand. Roman also gets bored from time to time. So I shall keep your deception to myself on the promise that when Roman next gets bored, I can count on your assistance.
Agreed. I would ask that you do not inform Remus about magnets, however. I had not anticipated how destructive they could be, and I absolutely love the idea of disorientated pigeons in the dark. The longest debate between Janus and Logan about whether I had broken a rule or not. Spoiler alert, I had not. See, I am banned from growing any and all plants forever and ever and ever. But I was looking for something under my bed, and it's all damp and dark under there, and I found mushrooms, and they were great, and they smelled terrible. Then I forgot about them, until it was my turn to cook a couple of weeks later, and somebody suggested that they would like mushroom risotto, and I remembered that I had lots of mushrooms, so I gathered them all up and put them in the mushroom risotto. I had not thought to check that all of them were edible varieties, and Janus got mad. He said, "You are not allowed to grow plants," and I said, "Well, I haven't grown plants, they're mushrooms," and he said, "Mushrooms are plants," and I said, "No, they're not," and he said, "Yes, they were," and I had to get Logan, because fungi are different to plants, and Janus didn't believe me, and they got into a big debate, and I got bored and wandered off. By the time I got back, Janus was on a strop, because I was right and he was wrong, and he hates that. He didn't say sorry, but he did let me choose the movie that night. I chose The Human Centipede. It's so grim and gross and disgusting. I like all the sciences, so it's so hard, to choose just one. Chemistry's all about making things be on fire or going boom. And biology's gross. Everything from decomposition to things with too many teeth. And physics has a lot of potential. At first it doesn't seem that interesting, but then we get into the laws of thermodynamics and boom, we're back to big explosions again. At the moment though, I'm very much enjoying melting things with acid. So far, I have melted 8 spoons, Logan's tie, patent spare glasses, 3 beakers, 2 mugs, 1 kettle, bit of Janus's hat, part of my moustache, a crazy straw, a water balloon, hole in Logan's desk, 3 holes in my desk, bottom of a bucket, large chunk of the floor, and the entire contents of the dishwasher. If Janus finds it amusing. See, it's harder for him to be all Captain Killjoy if he's struggling to hide a smirk. Oh, or if Roman gets ticked off enough, he reaches for his sword. That's a pretty clear cut-off point right there. Patton, Roman, Logan, Virgil.
What are you doing here?
I've come as a courtesy call. Remus, your brother, has a new hobby, and I thought you'd best be forewarned.
What is it?
Believe me when I say you really don't want to know. Just, if he offers to show you something, I would politely decline.
Fine, you told us. Now go.
As you wish. Come quickly, it's about to hatch!
Remus, we were just talking about you. What's about to
There's
happen?
a caterpillar, and it's gone into a cocoon, and it's taken ages, but I think it's about ready to emerge. Come on!
Oh, butterflies. I love butterflies. They're so pretty and colourful. Did Janus not warn us about Remus's new hobby? Deceit was probably lying. It's what he does. And we should encourage Remus when he's got a nice hobby like butterflies. Lead the way, Patton. I've got a bad feeling about this.
Look, there he is. That's a cocoon. There.
Oh, you need a little
Come on, little guy. You can do it.
Oh, it's shaking.
Here you go.
Wait, what's that? Ugh, revolting. It's not a butterfly. Ugh.
Beautiful.
Indeed, it looks like some sort of wasp.
Yeah, he's a parasitic wasp. An egg got laid inside the caterpillar, and then the caterpillar went into a cocoon, and then slowly the parasitic wasp has been eating him from the inside while the caterpillar was still alive.
It got worse. I didn't think it could get worse.
I'm going to call him Henry. Patton, Virgil, where are you going? Roman, you're missing the best bit. Why, Janus, I thought that you went over specifically to warn the light slides about Remus's new hobby. You know, Janus, I did. How shocking, then, that they didn't listen to you. This is indeed an unusual turn of events. I'm so glad that my misadventures are cause for such mirth. However, to your question, there is one rule that Remus was particularly impressive. It didn't require any toxic substances or disregard for his own personal safety. Just his wits. The rule began, Remus will knock before entering personal quarters. I watched him as he walked straight up to my bedroom door, knocked and then let himself in. He followed the rule. I shoot him out all the same, and adapted the rule. Remus will knock and wait for come in before entering a personal quarters. Again I watched him. He walked straight up to my bedroom door. He knocked. He said come in, and on he went, quite merrily I might add. The rule needed amendments. Remus will knock and wait for somebody else to say come in before entering personal quarters. I found him later that day, grinning ear to ear, outside his own bedroom. He had knocked and was now very patiently waiting for somebody else to give him permission to enter into his own bedroom. He was very happy with himself, and I cannot imagine how long he'd been waiting. The rule then got corrected. If it doesn't have your name on it, Remus will knock and wait for somebody else to say come in before entering personal quarters. I'm sure you could imagine it took Remus only about a minute before he got a permanent marker, scrawled his name on my door, and then bounced merrily right on through. For sake of simplicity, and to ensure that Remus can access his own bedroom, the rule currently reads, Remus will knock and wait for Janus to say come in before entering Janus's personal quarters. The others can fend for themselves and make their own arrangements with Remus. As long as I do not find my pillowcases stuffed with rotting fish guts, again, I am satisfied. And I remain fairly impressed at Remus's way of circumnavigating even the most simple of rules. Remus, please stop adding labels to the contents of the fridge. All of my labels are perfectly accurate and correct. Yes, but it is somewhat off-putting to reach for the milk and find the words cow lactation written upon it. But it is! Fine, I won't add any more labels. Thank you. Enjoy your hot leaf juice. We've added bovine secretions. If you're sure you don't want it. There are not many. Remus's room is soundproofed, and although he prefers the more atonal and discordant melodies, he has a talent for making music with whatever instrument he picks up. The 3-hour kazoo solo was an experience, and I absolutely adore the bagpipes. I'm yet to be convinced that it's supposed to sound like something wheezing in agony. And there is a rule banning so-called earworms, both figurative and literal. This is Remus after all. The first rule is that Remus will inform somebody when he's feeling bored, and there's a list of names that he can go and approach. When we first wrote the rule, however, not everyone appreciated the seriousness of the situation when Remus went to them, nor were they always willing to help Remus in his time of need. Others dismissed his sudden appearance as a prelude to mischief and sent him on his way. I like to think that Remus would be better listened to now. However, the most effective solution remains that Remus will come and find me when he's feeling bored, and I will never help him deal with it. Hey! Hey! Don't make me bonk you over the head to get you to pay attention to me.
What?
Have you gone to apologise to Snakeface yet?
Why would I need to apologise?
You laughed at his name. That wasn't very nice. Plus, it's gnawing at you like a rat with a femur.
He hasn't apologised for calling me the evil twin yet.
If you hold your breath waiting for Janus to say sorry, you're just going to turn all sorts of interesting colours. Janus would rather chew off his own toes than admit he was wrong.
Was he, though?
Of course he was wrong. I spout nothing but nonsense. Pure, unfiltered filth. Meanwhile, you're the kind of guy that memorises Disney movies so that you can tell Puffball Patton when to close his eyes to get him past the interesting and scary bits. Which kind of means you might have to be the bigger man and go and apologise first. Guess that's what happens when you're a goody two-shoes that wouldn't know a fun idea if it slapped him upside the face at velocity. That reminds me, do you want to come and see my cannon? I think I've got the gunpowder ratio perfect. We can stuff parrots in it and blow them to bits. That's like confetti, right?
Stupid secrets need to spill. If you don't tell them, then I will.
If you're sure. I have a confession to make. I've not been entirely honest with you, and you should be deeply shocked at the fact. This is a lie. The rules are not for my sake or sanity, but for Remus's. Remus is a creativity, and I will not have him languish through boredom. His own particular brand of inventiveness thrives when set against the status quo. So I crafted the rules to provide Remus ample opportunity to subvert and exploit the loopholes. It's not about the rules, about what Remus does with them. Of course, I could be lying, trying to paint myself in a better light rather than some authoritarian killjoy. I do not care if I'm believed or not. I will continue to write the rules regardless.
Thank you, Janus.
You're not at all welcome.